One night in the house of God, a boy heard his own name. He got up and ran to Eli, the old priest. "Here I am, for you called me." Eli answered that he had not called him and sent him back to lie down. Then it happened again, a second time, and a third. Only then did Eli understand what was happening, and he told the boy what to answer if the voice came again. "Speak, Lord, for your servant hears." That boy was Samuel. He would become one of the greatest prophets in Israel, and for the first 3 times he did not recognize the voice of God, even though he slept in the house of the Lord itself. That is worth knowing before anything else. Recognizing God's voice is not something a person is born with, it is learned. Today, many people say lightly, "God told me." Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is a person's own desire dressed in God's name. And sometimes it is a third thing, which the Bible also speaks about, and which is rarely said out loud. So let us go in order. How does God speak, and how do you know it is truly Him? First, God speaks. He has not withdrawn and left us to guess. God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by His Son. Hebrews 1:1-2. He spoke through prophets, through dreams, through angels, through scripture, and finally through Christ. And He does not stop speaking to those who are His. "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." John 10:27. Notice what Jesus says here. He does not say that His sheep hear only rarely, nor that only a special few will recognize Him. He says, "My sheep hear my voice." That is the normal condition of a believer, not an exception for the chosen. But sheep do not recognize the shepherd because they have a special gift. They recognize Him because they are with Him. If you want to hear God, begin where He has already spoken. All Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. 2 Timothy 3:16. This is the one way that cannot deceive. A feeling can deceive, a circumstance can mislead, Scripture cannot. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. And from this follows a rule that settles most of our uncertainty. God will never say anything that contradicts His own word. If it seems to you that God is leading you into something Scripture clearly forbids, that is not God, no matter how strongly you feel it. This is why most people who say they cannot hear God have never even opened the book in which He speaks to them. The second way is inward. Jesus promised the Spirit who guides. However, when He, the Spirit of truth, has come, He will guide you into all truth. John 16:13. It may be a quiet prompting, a thought that will not go away, an unease before something that seems good, or a peace before something that seems hard. Paul speaks of that peace as a measure. "And let the peace of God rule in your hearts, to which also you were called in one body, and be thankful." Colossians 3:15. The word used here carries the sense of acting as an umpire, the one that decides. Peace is not merely a pleasant feeling, it is an indicator. But be honest, this is the most subjective way of all. This is where people are deceived most often because it is easiest to confuse God's voice with your own desire. That is why this way must never stand alone. God also speaks from the outside, through the people He has placed around you. Where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Proverbs 11:14. A mature believer who knows you often sees what you cannot. That is not weakness, but protection. A person who asks no one is usually not seeking God's will. He is seeking confirmation for what he has already decided. God also speaks through circumstances, doors that open, doors that close. But be careful, a circumstance in itself is not a message. Jonah found a ship to Tarshish at exactly the moment he needed one, and he was running from God. An open door is not always God's door. And now comes the part that is most often skipped, and without it, everything else is dangerous. The Bible does not assume that every voice is God's. On the contrary, it expressly commands us to test. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. 1 John 4:1. Why? Because the enemy does not come as an enemy. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11:14. A lie that looks like a lie would deceive no one. That is why the most dangerous voices sound spiritual. They speak of love, of freedom, of how you deserve more. They sound almost right, and that is exactly the problem. There is a third voice as well, which is neither God nor the enemy, your own. Fear knows how to speak in God's voice. So does desire. That is why testing is not a lack of faith. Testing is obedience. 5 questions that separate one voice from another. First, does it agree with Scripture? If it contradicts the word, it is not from God. There is no exception here. Second, does it lead me toward God or away from Him? God's voice always draws you closer. An accusation that makes you hide is not His. God convicts of sin in order to bring you back. The enemy accuses in order to drive you away. Third, do mature believers confirm it? If no one who walks with God can confirm what you are hearing, stop. Fourth, is there peace after prayer? Not excitement, peace, and a peace that remains once the days have passed. Fifth, is it rushing me? God gives clarity, not panic. The pressure of "you must decide now" rarely comes from the one who waited centuries to send His Son. And one more thing, perhaps the most uncomfortable of all. If anyone wills to do His will, he shall know concerning the doctrine, whether it is from God or whether I speak on my own authority. John 7:17. Jesus ties understanding to willingness to obey. Very often, a person does not hear God not because God is silent, but because he already knows what he must do and does not want to do it. Seeking a new answer is easier than obeying the old one. There will be seasons when you hear nothing. You pray, you wait, and silence. Elijah lived through it. After the greatest victory of his life, he fled into the wilderness and wanted to die. God called him out to the mountain, and then, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. 1 Kings 19:11-12. God did not come in what was loud. He came in a whisper, in what can be heard only if you are quiet. Silence is not abandonment. Sometimes it is an invitation to come closer. And when you do not know, you are free to simply ask. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. James 1:5. You do not need a special gift to hear God. You do not need to be a priest or a theologian or someone special. You need to be close. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. We live in a world that never falls quiet. Screens, voices, notifications, noise from morning until night. And God spoke to Elijah in a whisper. Perhaps we do not hear him not because he is not speaking, but because we are never still long enough to hear. Open the scriptures, be still, pray and wait, and be willing to obey what you already know, because a voice is recognized by nearness. You do not have to ask who it is when someone you love calls your name. You simply know. So it is with him. The more time you spend with God, the more easily you will recognize him when he speaks. And then, like Samuel that night, you will be able to say, "Speak, for your servant hears."